Hello and welcome to Ion South Asia. I'm Ferry Bhatt.
And I'm Sunil Hali.
Every week we bring to you news, events and happenings of South Asian community in America. So let's start with the top story of the week. Sunil, Meera Shankar bids farewell to Washington, D.C. Meera Shankar, the second female ambassador to United States of America, has finally completed her assignment. And the U.S. Department of State has hosted a reception to bid Shankar farewell, which was attended by senior members of U.S. administration and other key ambassadors.
Yeah, Ferry, let me give you a little background to Ms. Shankar. She has been a career diplomat and has such an extraordinary accomplishments, and of course, especially when she follows as illustrious ambassador before her, Mr. Ronan Sen. She's from the 1973 batch of IFS, and in fact, she had a brief stint before that in 1991 and 1995. And obviously, with the work that she has done in the last few years during her tenure, the U.S. Department of State thought it appropriate to have a wonderful reception in her honor. In fact, the Secretary of State, Mrs. Hillary Clinton, called her in her office.
Right.
And she said in her statement, on behalf of the American people and the Obama administration, I extend my best wishes to you as your celebrated tenure as the Ambassador of India comes to an end. I thank you for your services and remain deeply grateful to you for helping to strengthen the important partnership between our two countries. Ferry, you know, the last 10 years have been so meaningful for these two democracies that it is so significant role for who sits in Washington, D.C. as the Indian ambassador to D.C.
Correct.
And obviously, with the kind of work Mrs. Shankar has done, it has made a significant difference. And when the Indian community in the greater Washington, D.C. area, there were quite a series of receptions that were thrown in her honor. The Ambassador Blake, who is the Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia Bureau, was the keynote speaker.
Right. And
appropriate to the occasion and befitting to her stature, he said rightfully that Ambassador Shankar and in her team have been responsible for advancing Indo-US ties through this period, which has been actually termed as intense, on a broad-based engagement which covered actually 2 state visits, 2 rounds of strategic dialogue, and many other ministerial visits and dialogues. And he summarizes in one statement, Ambassador Shankar's outreach in Washington is truly striking.
Matter of fact, there are actually 2 receptions that were hosted, one for Indian American community and the other one was for her American interlocutors respectively. So, the governor of Maryland and Alabama also sent her special citations to the Ambassador Shankar for promoting ties between India and their states.
Let me tell you, Meera Shankar has hardly been missing a single state of America.
Correct.
She has been traveling all across the United States, projecting India even to those who had a very little knowledge of the country and her achievements. And in a very clear and a positive and convincing manner. I have met her several times. She speaks so beautifully, eloquently. She has that upright personality, smiling face. She is really a personality which was really admired by most. And again, to her credit, during her tenure, there were very successful visits by the Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, to US in 2009 November, and then followed by the President Obama's visit to India in November 2010, which really outlined the growth of the relationship between the two countries, which at present level touches all aspects of human endeavor.
Correct.
I think she has done such a wonderful work which will sit in the history while the Indo-US relationship go through the metamorphism, coming of the age now, becoming the 2 most bonded countries. Her role will be as significant as it was founded by the Ambassador Ronan Sen.
Absolutely.
And let me give you a little background about her. Shankar has served in the past as a director in the PMO, which is called the Prime Minister's Office in 1985 and 1991. She was with the Ministry of Commerce, she was the Ministry of Industry. She was actually, while serving with the Ministry of External Affairs, she headed 2 important divisions while dealing with the South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, as it is called, SARC, and while building the relationship in Nepal and Bhutan prior to 2009. She also served in Germany.
Wow.
when you look at all these positions that she held during her tenure, they obviously made her what she is recognized today as at the time of her exit from Washington DC, which is actually the ultimate position one can think of. And in between, actually, she also served the United Nations and the international security. I think it's a glorious career that Ambassador Meera Shankar had, and she has left another legacy which is going to be very, very difficult to build on. But again, then now you have Mrs. Nirupama Rao. She is the former secretary, and now she has taken over the position. And let me tell you, don't expect less from her. She's another wonderful person. You probably saw her many times on TV while Afghanistan negotiations were going on. Anywhere you saw anything about India or FM, it was Nirupama Rao. So.
Correct. And touching personal life of Shankar, she's married to Ajay Shankar, an IAS officer of 1973 batch.
Which is very typical of the IFS people, the Indian Foreign Services people, to marry civil services people, because they understand the difficulties. But I think now the couple will be a happy couple because they come together as she goes back home.
Right.
So
and she is blessed with two beautiful children, a son and a daughter.
And she is all the time. I am sure she's going to take a sabbatical from work for some time and then come back in another honorary position to serve the country.
Correct.
Going on to the next story, Ferry, is the continuation of a story that we have been carrying for some time about Mr. Rajat Gupta, who was formerly the director at Goldman Sachs, and before that a founding partner, managing partner at McKinsey, a man of glorious accomplishments, and he was picked up by Security and Exchange Commission. And for some reason, this is the first time SEC took an unusual step, and they brought against him civil administrative proceedings. This is very unusual. Typically SEC brings the civil court procedures just like everybody else who was booked under the same case of Galleon related SEC enforcement actions. But in his case, Rajat Gupta's case, they were going with the administrative case against him. And in fact, while the case was going on, they did not even wait to start the civil case. Because they were worried. I think there was some thought, we heard from the SEC members that they were worried that because Gupta serves on 3 boards of the public companies, and including the AMR Corp, Harman International Industries, and Procter & Gamble. So they had their own concerns about it, even though Gupta has resigned since this position. Now, when they have dropped this case from the civil administrative proceedings, Mr. Gupta's lawyer, Gary Naftalis, who has become very visible for last 4 or 5 months, is very happy because he thinks this is all baseless. And he is very happy that no criminal charges have been filed against him.
And one thing I'll also mention that he said that if SEC ever refiles any charges against Mr. Gupta, he said that it must do so in federal court. I think that's very smart, where he will have a right to a jury trial.
That is the actual bone of contention they had while the administrative procedures were taken. Because what was happening was the SEC was taking a cover under the expanded powers, which is actually called the Dodd-Frank Financial Overhaul Law, to seek the penalties in an administrative proceedings for much wider range of individuals. Before this, SEC could seek civil penalties only from people associated with registered firms. Gupta's case was the first time something like this happened. And since this has been dropped, I think they're very happy, like you said. This will become now more a civil case, and he's very happy that as a result of his lawsuit, because he has filed against SEC, this administrative proceedings have been dismissed, and he has no more singled for this disparate treatment. And with this, the best part, like you said, there'll be procedural safeguards available to him. There'll be jury trial. There'll be right to depose the witnesses, the protection of federal rules of evidence. I think Rajat is feeling there is some kind of a hope for him still, even though this case is really getting messy. SEC is very particular. Rajaratnam has been already, charged, and the decision was made in May. I'm not sure that there is any room here left for Rajat, even though now it goes to the different side of the fence. And while this settlement has been done, the administrative procedures have been dropped, Rajat Gupta has also dropped the lawsuit against the SEC. So there was some kind of a trade-off when this decision came out on Thursday.
Well, the reason that agency gives it is in public interest to dismiss the administrative case, but that dismissing these proceedings will not prevent the Commission from filing an action against Mr. Gupta in United States District Court. So even though they have dropped the administrative case, but yet there's, I think the civil lawsuit will
It's a long battle. Honestly, it's a long battle for Rajat. He has had to give up his position. He had to resign from the board, from the beautiful school of management he founded in India, and he wanted to expand on that. He has to give up the board position from these 3 organizations. Right. I think it's something you don't want at that stage in life, especially right. with Rajat's background and his glorious accomplishments.
Right.
And it doesn't end here. Now we have another mess with the largest party. In fact, this is the only party, the Indian National Congress, which is actually called in India the Congress I. They had founded in early 80s, which was called the Indian National Overseas Congress. Initially, they were all struggling. BJP had its own groups and Congress had its own groups, but finally there was a semblance of some order. INOC has a president, has chapters, right. has presidents of each chapter. They have a national vice president, they have a secretary, very systematically organized body. Now all of a sudden, in New Jersey, a person called Mr. Atma Singh, who was earlier when they formed the New Jersey chapter, which is I think the youngest chapter if I recall it, and when they announced it about 2 years ago, he was the chairman of the reception committee.
Right.
And he has been working with the organization to build it further and further. I don't know, for some reason, now suddenly he announces something called Indian Congress Party of USA.
Right, which is...
So now you have Indian National Overseas Congress and somebody declaring Indian Congress Party of USA. And he is using pictures of the dignitaries, he is using symbols of the party, which is serious because it created confusion.
Yeah.
And the president, Dr. Karan Singh, who is the chairman of AICC and he oversees the international body, has sent an official letter completely refusing.
Correct.
He says, it's a very conclusive statement. He says that he is directing all executive members and all INOC members to condemn this unauthorized and unapproved party. And he urges all public and media to be aware of this scam. He calls it a scam.
I think it
Just
is
the
a
other
scam.
day, this person was such an important member of the
right.
party in New Jersey, which is an important state, and suddenly, he has directed Dr. Surendra Malhotra, who continues to be the president. You have Mr. Shud Jasuja, who is the national vice president, and Mr. George O'Brien, who is the secretary, right. to reprimand this person, distance from it. Honestly, we are all trying to figure out why this happened, because all of a sudden something like this happened, there must be something behind it.
Well, it is time for a short break, but you don't go anywhere. Right after the break, we're going to talk to Pam Quattro.